Well, I will move to approve the agenda. I will second.
Mike and Mark seconds. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passes. Moving on to the minutes from April 13th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve April 13th, 2020 minutes.
Mark? Great motions. Mark seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 That passes. Reports and updates. Mr. Erickson, Director of Building Grounds, Capital Projects and Facility Services. Do we have an update? I can't hear you. No?
Unmute
He's
your
on mute.
device.
It says you're muted. Can you hear us, Don?
Don, you're muted in the Google Meets, not necessarily on your headset.
I apologize for the technical difficulty. No.
Okay.
That says you're in now.
Could he just come up here and talk?
You can hear us.
Now we'll put. Try turning it on.
Works now. Now we can hear you. No?
All right, now you got me?
There you go.
Hey. All right, is my computer doing it?
You're still coming, yeah, the sound is still coming through your computer.
All right, is that better?
I might not be able to hear them now.
I don't.
You are good. Can you hear me?
All right. Is it?
Can we just use the speaker on the laptop and not the headphone? We can't delay the meeting. We need to work around.
Can he come up and use this one? It's being taped.
Test. There you go. That's better.
Sorry about that. As many run-throughs as you go, it still doesn't work we want it to. I'm going to start out with going through an energy savings. First, I'll explain how our energy bills and what we're charged on in our commercial accounts. So if you look up above, you'll see that the different things that the schools get charged for that you typically don't get charged for at your house. It's going to be a customer demand charges, and they're determined by the highest kilowatt draw in a 12-month period, and that's for the CG3 account. There's the 2 accounts at the high school and 1 at the Kennedy Middle School. And then you have what is known as the actual bill demand, which is the highest KW reading during a billing period, and that's for all CG2 and CG3 bills. So that's all schools that are affected by the actual bill demand, the highest one during that 1 month billing period. And as you can see in my report, there was an actual reduction of usage by over 5.5%, the field house bill, but yet we actually experienced a 2.2% increase, and that was for the bill of ending March 30th of 2020. The reason for that is because of the demand charges that we got charged for during that month were substantially higher than what they were 1 year ago. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about when I talk about demand charges? Okay, if you want to go to the spreadsheet next, you can actually see what our bills have been for all the schools in comparison to last year, the same month, same billing period. So if you go to Amy Bell, we did really good with this May 20th billing period. We actually had an actual savings of 47%, but our energy savings were at 41%. So we did really good. Part of the reason is that our on-peak demand charge was decreased by 71% because, again, Amy Bell only gets that they're anymore. As you can see in the pictures, there's quite a few areas that need repair.
I have a question on that, Don. Since we've had the reduced traffic this year with the lack of school being in session, is there a chance we can skip one of the parking lots and take care of this concrete as a go around to try and save some money for this year?
We can do whichever we typically have been doing, trying to hit the parking lots once every 5 years for seal coating and crack filling. Crack filling we got to do. There's not a way around doing crack filling in order to keep the asphalt from crumbling more.
Sure.
But seal coating, yes, we could avoid doing seal coating if that's the desire of the committee.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would go with that idea. If we can save some money and maybe focus on this.
Anyone else? I think we're in agreement. Let's hold off on the seal coating if we can, or maybe make it a smaller section, whatever we can do. But that concrete, I agree, definitely needs to be taken care of. That's a safety issue. So we want to focus on that and see what we can do to save some money on the other asphalt.
All right, that's the direction I'll move then.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Are these ballards the ones that we were talking about with the referendum by the Gold entrance?
These would be the ballards that were not installed at the Gold entrance, correct. These do not have electrical or lighting installed in these. These are of a refined down ballard cost. If you wanted the nice fancy ones that you have at the Gold entrance, we would probably have to up that up to about $75,000 versus I think it's 86 in there right now.
8250.
Yeah, I'm okay with the scaled down version of the ballards. We're just looking for the safety issue. We don't need the lights necessarily, so that's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of why I quoted them, to have them that way instead too as well.
That sounds good.
We've got the nice fancy ones at the main entrance. This isn't a main entrance anymore, so it's lit up pretty well during the evening hours, so it should be pretty good that way. All right, next on the agenda then is roofing. After the last meeting, Ryan Swanee from CCG informed me that he was actually looking at two different roofing versus doing the Kennedy Middle School roof, Rockfield Elementary, and a roof at Amy Bell. Now, we have gone out, gotten quotes for the labor and the materials, and the total cost, along with the tuck pointing that's recommended, is $223,246. So we do have a difference of $66,754 approximately that was not accounted for in the budget. So, or that is accounted for in the budget. We have an excess in it. So we do have some extra money in Fund 41 at this point.
My thought on that is it's okay. We can leave that in Fund 41 for unforeseen future expenses. That's great.
And I think that's a great idea too. So
Mark, did you have a comment?
Yeah, weren't we looking at a large section to do at Kennedy? I mean, a very expensive large section over the main part of the building?
Yes, that was actually put off till next year now. So instead, we're going to be doing these two smaller sections at Amy Bell and Rockfield. That's where the dollar savings came in of the $66,000. Is that we went with two smaller sections.
So we're confident that roof can make it another year.
Yes, he felt very good that he felt that especially the Amy Bell roof was in worse shape than what the Kennedy roof was.
And then the Kennedy, is that over the course of the following 2 years, or we do it all in one big section you're thinking, or is that then a two-part project?
Well, as long as we've got the money, I would suggest that we do it in 1 year. But we'll have to see what the funds permit for next year's plan.
Any other comments? Okay, go ahead, Don.
All right, so then the next thing that we have on the agenda is Rockfield's elevator. So we had a discussion on this at one point in time where we need to get this brought up to code because of the construction project and the sprinkler system being installed. MEI, who's told us that they could get the new controller in and our existing door operator would be able to function with it, has now informed us that it will not work. So if we want to go with the new controller, we have to upgrade the door as well. The upgrade for the door is $19,569. Is just to go over with the overlay for that particular elevator, which MEI does not suggest doing because of the unreliability of an overlay versus a new controller and the age of the existing controller.
I would say take some of the money from the roofing that we saved to get that elevator door taken care of, because we wanted to do the elevator all as a whole package and not piecemeal it.
Yeah, I agree. Correct. Since we have the extra money now in Fund 41 that is available for this, I would assume, and we can get this all taken care of. That's another, obviously it's required. We have to do it. We need a functioning elevator in order to have occupancy, so let's get that done as well.
All right, we'll move forward with that. Next on the agenda is another FYI item. This is for a GHS trophy case. There's presently a GHS trophy case up by what was the upper auxiliary gym, and it's now the multi-purpose room in the hallway. This trophy case actually has trophies for the band music area. They're looking to move this case down into the PAC area in a hallway out here. The only thing that we're looking at doing is to want to make sure and ensure that it's not an issue with the Germantown Fire Department. The maintenance staff within the building could move the trophy case down and take care of the flooring and any other base needs. And then the next thing is also another FYI item. It is the Germantown High School track. Sarah Unerdl went out and got a quote for updating our track. The total cost to do the half-inch depth is $114,625, and then just to do a 3/8-inch track would be $96,000. The track hasn't been done since, 1999, so it's well due in time for another resurfacing. I do have it updated on the priority list so that we have the right dollar amounts and an updated quote for it.
Don, is this something we're looking to take out of Fund 41? Or is this out of your budget?
At this time, it would have to be something to come out of Fund 41 until I know what our budgets are going to look like next year.
Okay. Yeah, I think we know that it needs to be done sooner than later. Any thoughts on this?
Brian, could I interject?
Sure.
Given that we don't know what the state of the next school year is going to be and whether there will even be a season, how essential is this? And knowing that there could be some budgetary questions down the road, can we make it one more season potentially, given that we don't know if we're even going to have a season?
No, it's a good thought. Yeah, I'm not sure what next school year is going to look like and whether we'll have sports or not. It's kind of a toss-up right now. So I'm more than happy to plan for this, have the budget ready to go so that we can do it. Obviously, it's going to have to be over summer, I'm assuming. We're not going to be able to do it during the school year. So we can plan maybe for next summer. Do you think we can get another year out of it, or season, if we were to happen to have a season this year?
I would think you could. I don't think it's that dire yet, but it's something that definitely needs to be on the very short radar.
Right. Yeah, I'm okay with having the budget ready for it so that we can do it when it's necessary. But if it's not necessary at this point, I agree with everything being in flux right now. We might as well hold off a little bit on that. It is a significant dollar amount. So.
Well, you're going to see a significant dollar amount for the wayfinding signs as well.
I saw that.
Yes. Well, I've got update for all the schools on it now too, so it's actually increased substantially as well. What you have in front of you in the packet is what Germantown High School would like to have in the building for wayfinding signs. Now, this does not include anything for the exterior of the building. Lemberg is also looking at giving us a quote to give us wayfinding signs outside so people know which area of the buildings to go to as well. As you can tell, just for Germantown High School, it's $34,942. If we were to do all the schools with the quotes that we received, it comes to $99,083.
Brian? $99,000 plus the $6,500 on the vouchers that'll be in the finance committee tonight that were also spent on Lemberg signs for the high school. Do we know what those were for?
Those were for additional interior wayfinding signs that were preliminary different signs that the school actually felt they needed. If you go to, actually, I think they're more additional signs that the school wanted for areas in different rooms and modifications to signs that were already installed.
Brian, can I interject?
Go ahead.
I guess a couple things. This is another irksome item with the referendum. If suddenly the school is so big that we need wayfinding signs, why didn't the architect account for them in the referendum plan? And second of all, we have all of this tech ed equipment. Isn't this something that could be fabricated within our own school and a project for us to do? Or if someone is in the tech ed department that needs an Eagle project, something like that, versus that's a lot of money to be spending on signs when we don't know what the budget's going to be.
I agree with you, Sarah, 100%. And one of my thoughts was this is a lot of money for signs where we could, task this out of our own people to make signs that could be just as beautiful and for a lot less than what we're. This doesn't seem very complicated or technical. It sounds like something we could handle quite easily in-house with our tech department. Something to consider. I'd like to hold off on this. I love the idea. I think we need it. It's necessary, but I don't think at that price it needs to be done right away. And I think we can come up with a better option. I think we either need to take this out for other bids or figure out if we can do this in-house. I think that's probably our best option.
I'd agree with you.
And Mr. Medved?
Go ahead.
Based on a conversation I had with Mr. Erickson prior to his departure, this is something that he wanted to provide to the board to give you insight and a heads up on some of the things that do need to be done. To Ms. Larson's point, yes, it is another one of those things to add to the list.
I hope we're keeping track. You bet. Okay, go ahead, Don.
All right, next on my list is custodial maintenance summer work. We want to at least present to you on some of the additional items that we're looking at trying to complete during the summer times. Not only are we going through and taking care of all the classrooms and doing the regular summer cleaning, and then also cleaning and sanitizing this building every time that it's being used at this point in time. We get staff coming in, we re-sanitize everything, disinfect everything to make sure that the building's safe again for the employees that are working within the building, in addition to anybody else that would be coming into the building. So some of the things that they're looking at doing during this extended period of time is to have additional classrooms, bathrooms, and halls painted to brighten up the area. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've changed our color. We've gone from the Germantown scroll, like off tan color, to more of a brighter, whiter color to kind of lighten things up and brighten the schools up quite a bit. So far, we've gotten pretty good positive feedback that people like the change. It would be painting and touching up all interior and exterior door frames in addition to doing these classrooms and bathrooms. We're going to be doing a lot of extra ceiling tile replacement throughout all the buildings and halls as needed. We've already started that progress. I'd like to say the high school alone ordered probably 90 bundles of ceiling tile to start changing things out. One of the areas they're going to be looking at prioritizing is going to be the lower English hallway. Those tiles are in bad shape. They're going to be working on that during the summertime to get that, to bring it up to the standards of what construction brought to. So they're going to be also, I got grounds crew, they're going to be striping and numbering the parking lots at Germantown High School and Kennedy Middle School. This guy, he feels that with the equipment we have and the paint, should be able to do this with just the cost of the paint. Grounds work, which is typically we hire summer grounds people on. We're going to just getting chips delivered to each school, have the district-wide maintenance people as well as the school buildings spread the mulch out into the areas. It's an additional task that they can take care of. We can just bring some wheelbarrows over, some shovels, and they can start spreading the mulch out as well. So we wouldn't need to hire any additional summer help at this point. As guys here at the high school want to do is they want to go through and repair and replace all the door closers within the high school. If you go through, a lot of these doors around here are in pretty rough shape, so I'm actually looking towards the fact that they're looking to change out all these door closers that are malfunctioning. Another thing that they're looking at doing, and I've been pushing for this one really hard for them, is to clean, paint, and update the lighting in the boiler room at Germantown High School. I want that boiler room to be a showcase place now. We have some great new equipment in there. Just needs a good cleanup and some painting. They want to go through and clearly label all electrical panels at all the schools to make sure that everything is labeled properly, that it's easy to find out where the circuit breakers are instead of going opening up a panel and trying to guess where the actual breaker is. At the administration building, it's due again to paint this and seal the soffits and fascias. That'd be something that I would have our district warehouse guy take care of for us. All the lockers at Germantown High School and Kennedy Middle School still need to be cleaned out. All the combinations changed. We won't be able to do that until start doing that until the middle of June, end of June at the earliest, since all the lockers still have in them. Now, we're going to have to re-clean and touch up all the rooms prior to any staff returning. They're looking at replacing all the batteries in all of our plumbing fixtures. This is one of my pet peeves is that we're constantly changing batteries. I think that we need to get this on a regular rotation, that once a year we go in there and just change these batteries out, and we know if we're good for the year that way. Another thing that some of the staff want to do is clean and repair all that district folding chairs. A lot of our folding chairs within the district have not been gone through or cleaned in years. I want to have the grounds crew
Testing, 1, 2.
Can't hear anybody.
Oh, I could just hear you.
Oh, now I hear you. No. Very good. One of the things I liked on the list, getting those hallways taken care of with the ceiling tile and the paint, and the lighting was also one of the things I had mentioned back with the tour of the schools, to get those taken care of. And it sounds like the fluorescent bulb upgrade will take care of that. We had some dingy hallways, so hopefully that'll get taken care of. Any other comments, questions? Okay, Don, did you want to go through the priority list? Or are we going to hold off on that?
All right, I think I'm back. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Hey. Great.
Yep.
So, yes, the priority list really hasn't changed much. The only thing I did is I upgraded the roofing, which actually didn't turn out didn't properly save. The roofing will be upgraded at $223,246, as we discussed earlier. And the Germantown track has been updated to the price of the quote for $114,625. Did you lose me again?
Nope, we got you. I just had to unmute for a second there. Now that all looks good, but we're going to hold off on taking care of any of these items, or are we going to try and tackle these this summer?
Based on the last meeting, I don't know that we really have a lot of funds available. I think we should wait until the new business manager comes along and we can actually see what we're sitting on. She starts in June, correct?
She starts July 1st.
July 1st. So maybe I can check Tessa and have Tessa run us a report and see what we're sitting on and report back at the June meeting. We can decide from there based on the roofing being done and the Rockfield elevator.
That sounds good to me. Considering all the uncertainty that we have, and with the budget coming forward, not knowing exactly what next year is going to look like, I'm all in favor of holding off until we have more clarity. So that sounds good.
Mr.
We're in
Medved.
agreement.
Mr. Medved.
Mr. Holmes, go ahead.
I would like to inform, this is a good point that Mr. Erickson has brought up. Your new business manager will be coming on board on July 1st. I know that Mr. Erickson did meet with Ms. Altendorf on 4 occasions, and Ms. Altendorf has been given access to much of the she's been given full access to school district finances, and she has already started to take a look at those things. However, she does have to wrap up her other school district as well. So she's attending to these things as much as possible. To Mr. Erickson's point, I would agree. They've identified many things to keep them busy up until July 1st. But anything that would cause to scrutinize in regard to dollars, I would wait on those things.
Okay, thank you. Don, that's all you have?
That's all I had at this point, correct.
Any other questions, comments?
Hey, just one for me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Item 23 is
Raise your mic a little bit.
Item 23 is at the bottom of the list. LED lighting upgrades, $20,000 each year. Are we doing any LED lighting this year? Bulbs or T4s?
Right now, it's just the T5s, changing the color to the 5000. Obviously, that's something that we're working on regardless. If my budget will permit it, and I don't want to make any commitments about it until after the new business manager does come online, I've been spending about $10,000 each year trying to continue changing the lights out. But until I know where we're going to be sitting for dollars for next year, I don't want to make a commitment and say I'm going to spend $10,000 out of my budget at this point.
Yeah, Don, as far as the LED upgrades, I think we talked about it before, but I'll bring it up again. And I think you were having a mic problem before when I mentioned it, but if we can take care of those lower hallways at GHS, where you're kind of going from new area to old area, and you have the dingy lights in those areas, if we can make those the priorities for upgrades, that would be great. I think a lot of our schools have already been touched with LEDs, and overall it looks great, but there are a couple of areas where it's very noticeable.
Yeah.
So if we can focus on those.
Yep, definitely.
Ryan? I drove by Amy Bell. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I drove by Amy Bell today looking at the retention pond, and we're still having some issues there. And I know that's on the list with our attorney to pursue. But across the street in the yard that was set up for construction, I think our plans were to have like auxiliary parking. What is the status of that, and should we be revisiting that? I know we were partnering with the Village of Richfield to rule that in or out as an opportunity, and if it was an opportunity, it should be on some list to make it more of a parking lot, signage and things like that. So,
Don, do we have any update on that? I know originally that was not allowed to be a parking lot, but I don't know if we've got any updates from the village on that.
We actually do. I had a conversation with their executive at the executive administrator for the Village of Richfield. He's open to the concept. It would be one that we can bring it to their board and to to discuss that. They do see a need for a possibility of auxiliary parking. To your point, what they would like to see us do, though, is gate that entrance and utilize it for when those times arise for the auxiliary parking.
Okay, that sounds good. Any other comments? Okay. Don, that's all you had then?
That's all I have, correct.
Okay, we're moving on to item 6, unfinished business, discussion and possible action, Donjas Bay property. Mr. Holmes, I guess you got this one?
I do, and I'll quickly turn it over to Mr. Soderberg to present the rest of it. Board members were provided with a letter from Viridian Homes that was requesting the board consider groundbreaking date to be extended from 1 year to 2 years. Based on the letter that you were provided with, it is board's will, literally. You do have Matt Cudney, a representative from Viridian audience tonight. We do have a computer set up for any individual, well, not any individual, but anyone the board would like to invite up during committee to discuss that if you like.
Actually, I guess I'll open it up for discussion and see what everybody's thoughts are. I know we've had some feedback from the community members, and they're very much, from what the emails that we've received, are against the extension of it. I'm actually willing to do a compromise with them. I think 2 years is excessive. Do 16 months, give them an extra 4 months. That puts them through the rest of next summer. I think that gives them plenty of time to break ground. And like I said, I'd like to hear from Viridian if they could come forward, what breaking ground looks like and what their time frame looks like. I know you've been through the ringer, and it's taken you a long time to get to this point, and we appreciate your patience, but we'd like to hear from you what your thoughts are, now that you've had a chance to review this.
Yeah, and in the spirit of transparency, there was some email communications, and I could not make the decision. This was a board decision to extend it for another year. So we wanted to create the opportunity to hear what Viridian had to say, and also what the why is. We do know that COVID-19 is a major factor, but I think we owe it to Viridian, especially after the last 2.5 years and all the roller coaster back and forth with the village, and all the heartache that caused, because a lot was going on at that time. So.
We can't hear you. Hang on.
Brian, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just curious why this is not being addressed at the board level, because this whole subject didn't come through the building committee to begin with. So I'm just wondering how this was on the agenda for the building committee and not the general board.
I'll answer that. I asked for it to be at the building committee to have it be fleshed out here. The expectation is that it will get to the board level. We've got our entire board here right now, so each board member can opine on the topic and also allow the building committee to comment on it. So.
Fair enough.
Okay. Nope.
Better now?
There you go.
All right. I have a short statement just prepared. I just want to thank the board and the building committee for the opportunity to discuss this. As you know, we originally received the village board approval of our neighborhood in December of 2018. And had everything gone as expected, we would have been more than halfway through building all the homes that were planned on the Donjas Bay parcel. But things didn't go as expected. No one could have expected all the twists and turns along the way to the eventual second approval earlier this year. Nor would anyone have anticipated a global pandemic sweeping the world, shutting down schools and businesses. No one knows what comes next, but we all have to plan for it. I'm sure the district is planning on opening schools this fall, but I'm sure you're also planning with contingency plans for not reopening or reopening and then having to close again. It's our intent to break ground on the property within the 1 year suggested in the RFP and the offer to purchase, but we also have to prepare ourselves for any alternatives that are forced on by the unprecedented nature of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why we're requesting an additional year to break ground as a contingency plan if schools and businesses close again. We've come a long way together and weathered setbacks, personal attacks, and much misinformation. If we were not going through the COVID-19 crisis, there would be no request. I'm just asking you to consider all the time and work and effort you're doing putting together contingencies and allow us the same consideration. Thank you.
Okay, I kind of put the opening bid at 16 months. Does that sound more reasonable to you or a possibility?
What happens is if it doesn't happen within a certain time frame of next spring, it likely may not happen till the next year, just because in terms of getting work started and what we'd like to do is start and then continue work all the way through. It's a lot more expensive if you break ground, do some of the work, and then wait for another year to get the rest of the work done, because you're putting out all the money for the infrastructure or any of the other work that's done initially. So, like I said, I'm hoping that we're breaking ground, and our intent is to break ground. It just if some forces and conditions change due to the pandemic, then we may push it off till the next year.
Sure. Knowing what I know about the market in Germantown right now, I think it's in your best interest to focus on the Germantown property. Germantown properties right now are selling in hours, not even days. If they're in new homes in good condition, the market is very hot still in Germantown. So just my take on it. I understand what you're saying about the extra year and wait until spring. I'll open up to my colleagues if anybody has any comments they'd like to.
Mr. Medved, may I interject for a moment?
Absolutely.
One of the things that I would like to add is board members did forward me several of the emails that they were receiving. Based on some of the comments within those, I did contact the administrator at the Village of Germantown and asked him about the minutes associated with the village's board of trustees passing allowing for Veridian to buy that property and develop an R4 zoning area. Based on the minutes, the Village of Germantown did pass that with the stipulations that Veridian would would follow what was presented to the Village of Germantown, and that they would kill all the buckthorn in the area.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other comments?
Actually, Brian, I'm wondering what you see as the obstacles to construction. And yes, there is COVID, but I am familiar with the construction trades, and knowing that the Realtors Institute had lobbied the state to overcome the inspection hurdles and allowing master electricians to do the affidavit. And so if the village inspector was not working to remove that obstacle, you don't have the social distancing, say, as being confined to a building space. So I'm wondering, what do you foresee those obstacles being that would prevent that from happening?
It's not necessarily the prevention of getting started on it. The part of the issue is the market, and although the market may be very good right now, the market is down probably 75% from where it was last year. So the concern is, and this was a concern that was brought up by some of the residents, is we don't want to get started and just have stuff sit there. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get started and just continue to go through. And so what we would, if we can, we will get started this year. We still have approvals to go through in terms of our engineering approvals through the village and getting all of our permits to actually start our construction. Getting the rezoning approval was just the first step. There are several other steps that we'll have to take to go through there.
Right.
And we'd like to get started as soon as we can, and we will. This is more just, if things close down again, I'm not sure that necessarily the next time they may say everything is shut down, just because it happened with this particular pandemic and with this particular stay-at-home order, we were allowed to continue working. I'm not sure what the future holds.
Right. A couple questions. You mentioned a lot of hurdles you have to go through with the village now. What's your best case guesstimate in terms of when you'll get the thumbs up, the green light to move forward from the village?
I would say sometime, hopefully early this fall.
Not over the summer?
No. We won't be able to start this year. We will be submitting plans to the village. We have to submit by June 1st to be on their August Plan Commission meeting, and that's just for the preliminary plat and preliminary engineering, and also the development agreement. The earliest we could get started would be at sometime after September, and depending on the weather, September is a tough time to get started. So at the earliest, I would say if all things went well and we got started in September and we were able to line up contractors, starting in September is an iffy proposition.
Okay. Hypothetically, let's say the building committee, they could do two things. They could move this forward to the full board for further discussion, or they could, not do that. But question for you is hypothetical. Let's say, could you live with a 1-year agreement in the contract that if a second wave, a third wave, or whatever you want to call it, of the pandemic comes around and shuts the entire state down, where we're going back to safer at home, sheltering in place, we put some language in there that protects both parties with that?
I would be fine if we wanted to add some language that talks about specific events. Like you said, a second or third wave of COVID, where additional stay-at-home orders are mandated statewide. Only reason we're asking for this.
Because I could see your concern that if you start, moving ground and all of a sudden, the governor shuts everything down. Well, no fault of your own.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, my thought on it is we have no intention of purchasing the property back. We want to see the homes there. We want the tax base increased. That was the whole goal of selling the property in the first place. So obviously the sooner it can happen. I guess the only concern I would have, I guess hearing what you had to say tonight, I'd be willing to go with the 1-year extension, knowing that you're going to break ground as soon as possible. But I think the caveat needs to be, once you break ground, you keep going.
Absolutely.
There's not that stall time where you're sitting with the road half done and construction equipment all over the place and that kind of thing happening.
That would make good business sense for us.
Sure. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to mention, when I saw this in the board materials, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, actually. It seemed reasonable to me, and I think hearing that once construction gets going, that he wants to complete it, I'm fine with the 1-year extension. Why should we make it complicated with extra lawyer lingo in the contract? Let's just extend it 1 year and go with that. The KISS principle.
Okay. Any other comments?
I guess, Brian, I do have a comment because I think let's face it, the village put us in a horrible spot with all of this. And we understand that this really is due to no fault of your own. We wouldn't be here if the village hadn't handled things the way they did. That said, I'm a little hesitant because there's a difference between not moving forward because of a COVID-related reason or just a change in the market, and suddenly it not being the ideal business environment to go ahead and build. So that's where I'm leaning towards. I like Bob's language about if this is a COVID versus a business decision, because obviously, from our standpoint, we want to see those homes built quick.
Brian. Right.
Go ahead, Ray.
I would stick with the 1 year and go along with Bob's suggestion of putting some type of language in to our purchase to offer. I think that things are going to be moving forward. I think the village is going to try to do what they can to get things going, and hopefully they can start breaking ground in September or before that, and then move forward. I don't think they need another year.
Do we want a motion, Jeff, this question for you? Do we want this motion to go to the full board? Bob?
Ms. Reineman, you are on mute.
The mic is this one.
There you go.
Now we're good. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. I would agree that we need to have that lingo in there because we obviously want the homes. We want this to move forward. And the only reason it would not move forward is because of COVID-19. So
what I'm hearing is we've got 1 year, but leave the possibility open for negotiation if things change. Does that seem like what the consensus is? No?
I know,
okay.
Mr. Medved, I know from my experiences over the years in regard to that language can certainly be crafted by any lawyer to allow for that to occur.
Right. So that's, I think, the direction we want to go. Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
I'm kind of in that same direction that if we do have another declared pandemic, then I can certainly see the need to give an extension. But otherwise, I'd like to move forward and see things get built within the next year.
Okay. Brian? In the interest of time, I'll let you make your comment in a second, but in the interest of time, we'll move this to the full board since it's on the agenda tonight, and we can continue the discussion if anybody has any further thoughts, and then we can make the motion there. Does that work, Bob? Yeah.
I guess I just want to clarify, too, that you would be granting the extension with the provision only that if it was another pandemic. So we don't have to come here again and do this if there is another pandemic. So there would be language that would be extended if this happens.
That makes sense, yes.
And Matt, we'll fast track the language tomorrow with both parties. So
yeah, our closing is scheduled for Wednesday. So
yep, we'll get it done.
I would like to go ahead and let the board and Matt know and the community members know that in all likelihood to do that language, it won't be reference to pandemic. It will be reference to public health emergency and any stay-at-home order provisions.
Sure. Yep. Mr. Kinky?
Thanks. I just was going to say I think we should just move it forward. I would imagine the board would want their vote on a record on this issue, so they should just to speed things up, move it from the committee to the board level.
Agreed. So that's what we'll do. We'll talk about it again in a moment. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you coming, Matt. New business, seeing none. I moved on to item 8. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
3 motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mark seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. We are adjourned at 6:30. Thank you all.